Hello folks, my name is Mark, and this is Why I Hate the World. And this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while. I was on Reddit last week, and there was a link in Our Politics there, and it was of Todd. It was the Rachel Maddow show, and they had Todd Palin, who is Sarah Palin's husband, talking to this lady at a Sarah Palin event. Like, Sarah Palin is going around the country right now and like visiting states. She's essentially campaigning without actually announcing that she's campaigning, like testing the waters to see if she's going to actually, run for president, which, she probably isn't. But anyway, but she's basically trying to keep herself in the news, to keep herself relevant, is what Sarah Palin's doing. And she was at some stop, and there was a lady, and Todd Palin was like talking and having an argument with this lady. And the idea was basically that he essentially admitted that Sarah quit being governor for the money. He says something like, well, what would you do if you were faced with, a $700,000 check? And then the lady says back, well, I guess you take the money, And he pretty much admits that, yeah, she quit being governor to go make money, because there was like an offer for all this cash, and that got me thinking about that. A lot of people out there would say something like, well, why does that matter? What's the big deal? I'd take the money too. It's like, well, think about that for a minute. I mean, Sarah Palin went through to get elected. You have to go through a lot of shit to get elected, right? And people volunteered for her, right? For no pay. People made phone calls for her. People went door to door. People fucking made flyers and all this other shit for her, and like volunteered their time because they believed that this woman was the right person to represent them. They actually believed in Sarah Palin. And 2 years into it, she has her fucking 15 minutes of fame as John McCain's running mate, and then suddenly all the offers start pouring in, and she quits being governor. It's like, well, what about all that fucking work all those people put in for you, Sarah? What about all those sacrifices and all those people volunteering their time, because they believed that you were the right person for the job? Just basically Sarah Palin just, turned around and blew a big fat raspberry to all of them and told them to go fuck themselves. I'm taking the money, And that got me kind of thinking, this links back to something I've been hearing a lot in regards to American politics, over the last couple of years. Like, basically since Obama got elected, is that people have been saying this shit, And it's this idea that both parties are just as bad, like, they're both full of corrupt slime bags who only care about themselves. The idea is that the people who make up both parties are essentially taken from the upper 1%. And, because of that, because they're elite, they're from the elite, then they are beholden to corporate interests, essentially, which is, it's something that we've been hearing, like, a lot. And personally, I think this statement is a load of shit. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Because both parties are not equal in their corruption, all right? One side, that is the liberal fucking Democrat people, they seem for the most part to tend to favor the rich when it comes to legislation, but at least they throw a bone once in a while to the lower 99%, right? Once in a while you can get something out of them, like, a social program or something, or, Medicare benefits or something. You can get a little bit out of them, but the other side, the conservative, Republican, teabagger fucking people, they seem to be just filled to the fucking brim with just blatantly corrupt assholes who don't even try to hide how fucking much they just really don't give a shit about anything. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous, folks. Now, I really don't think that I'm being unfair when I say that, that I say that the two sides are not equal, because, I mean, just think about, over the last 6 months, I mean, just how many stories have there been exposing the just blatant and unforgiving corruption coming from almost exclusively Republicans? I mean, every fucking week there's another story, we have, like, for instance, we have Rick Scott in Florida, and he passed a law which forces recipients of, like, welfare recipients to get drug tests before they get their money, But the problem is, this law that he passed directly benefits his own chain of fucking health clinics, you know. But I guess it was okay because like he divested himself of it. You know, like in real life, like he gave ownership of the clinics to his wife. Okay, that's supposed to make it fucking okay. I mean, absolutely fucking ridiculous. You know, we have like Michelle Bachmann, okay, you know, who's like going on there and saying shit like that. We don't have enough money to extend unemployment and all this stuff, and you know, you're supposed to be fiscally responsible. You know, so far she's taken in over $1 million in taxpayer money for her various businesses. You know, like she has a family dairy farm, corn and dairy farm, that she's gotten $260,000 worth of subsidies. You know, or she actually like, you know, she's taken $137,000 in Medicaid funds for her fucking husband's bullshit, like pray away the gay fucking clinic. You know, that's like her husband owns a clinic where gay people, like Christians, send gay people to go like not be gay anymore. And it's like, why are we even paying for that in the first place? Why are they even getting taxpayer like money for that? I mean, doesn't the Constitution say something about the separation of church and state? You know, I guess that shit doesn't matter when you're a fucking representative, huh? As another example, right, Governor of Texas Rick Perry, he uses these state-run grants. Like he has one called the Texas Enterprise Fund, and then there's another one that goes out to high-tech companies or whatever. And he basically uses these to give grants to various companies, and the idea is that they're supposed to go open businesses and shit like that, right? But, you know, it turns out that he's actually using these to funnel money to corporations who then give it to other you know, sub-corporations and shit like that, and who end up donating it right back into the, you know, elect Rick Perry for fucking governor, like, campaign. You know, it's like he's basically taking state money, giving it to a corporation, and they're giving it right back to him, okay? And there's actually, this was on Reddit too, actually, and there's a New York Times article, which is actually on the web here, that has a very nice flow chart, which basically shows, you know, he gives it to him, and then they give it to him, and then they give it to him, and then they donate it right back to Rick Perry. You know, and he's essentially directly enriching himself and his own election campaigns by using state funds in this roundabout manner. You know, and if you think about it, you know, Rick Perry, since the 90s, he's managed to raise over $100 million using schemes like this. Okay. This is the guy that the fucking Republicans want for president now. You know, it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. I mean, what happened last time when the governor of Texas fucking became president? Okay, do you want to go through that shit again, right? I mean, Rick Perry, you know, he's not the only one, okay? Like, we have, like, Mitt Romney here, right? And Mitt Romney, there was a story a few weeks ago about how there was a shell company that formed, right? And then donated $1 million to Mitt Romney, and then 2 months later the shell company dissolved. Okay, and it was basically just a way of circumventing campaign finance laws and giving Mitt Romney $1 million, and it was like absolutely fucking ridiculous, you know. Now, did anybody do anything about that? Like, no. Okay, like, you know, like did Mitt Romney like refuse to take the money? Did he like, you know, give it back or anything? Like, no, okay, because thanks to fucking the Supreme Court, you know, thanks to like Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court and Citizens United, that kind of thing is not illegal anymore, all right? It used to be illegal, okay? The conservatives made it not illegal, all right? And it's, I mean, that just blatant corporate funneling of cash directly into politicians' coffers. Think about that. That's no longer illegal, thanks to the fucking Republicans, all right? And, you know, this is the kind of shit, I mean, this shit that I just mentioned, these 4 examples, these are these 4 I thought up, like, off the top of my head in, like, 10 minutes, okay? And this is just, like, in the last 6 months. I mean, who fucking knows how much corruption really goes on out there, you know? The thing is, though, it seems to be coming, I mean, at least over the last, you know, year, 6 months to a year, it seems to be coming direct, like, exclusively from the fucking Republicans. I mean, it is. I mean, every single one of those people that we just mentioned, they're all Republicans. It's like, when was the last time you heard about a Democrat in some kind of scandal like this? Okay, you know, like, When was the last time was a liberal Democrat get busted with this kind of blatant corruption charge, okay? Like, you know, do we have, like, fucking Nancy Pelosi passing laws that directly benefit her own businesses, you know? Or fucking, you know, is fucking Al Franken quitting his term and going off to be a fucking, you know, Fox News pundit? Like, no, okay? Now, I mean, I'm sure it happens from the liberal side, but why aren't we hearing about it? I mean, why, you know? And this is the thing. The conservatives out there are going to tell you it's because the mainstream media is liberal, all right? It's like, get the fuck out of my face with that, all right? You know, like, the fucking mainstream media, you know, it's not liberal when the largest player in town is News Corp and Fox News, okay? Like, I mean, they're the ones, you know, when you're the biggest, they have the biggest amount of, like, viewership, the biggest amount of ratings, okay? And when the biggest player in the game is just blatantly, obviously, and unapologetically right-wing, you know, they're influencing everybody else, okay? I mean, Fox, for crying out loud, you know, it's the unofficial mouthpiece for the GOP. I mean, I mentioned this in another video, but we even have, like, documents from the guy who, like, Roger Ailes, who founded Fox, like, saying that was its purpose during the Nixon years, the whole purpose was to set up a fucking media outlet for the GOP, and that is what Fox News is right now, okay? And, you know, but even them, like, are they actually finding scandals from, like, the liberals and the Democrats? And, like, not really, okay? You know, we have, like, these fucking fake-ass right-wing journalists like Andrew Breitbart making up untrue bullshit about, like, Acorn and Shirley Sherrod and all that, but in real life they're not finding it. And I mean, they expect me to believe that, you know, the liberal mainstream media is so liberal that they're, like, covering up fucking scandals from, like, you know, Democrats and shit like that. And that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire fucking life, okay? Get the fuck out of my face with that bullshit. I mean, you know, it's no fucking wonder that the country is so fucked up when you look at, you know, when these are the kinds of people who are running things, okay? Like, when half of the country, like, half of our political establishment uses their position to directly benefit themselves, right? The fruits of that corruption can be seen in our policies, okay? And, like, it's no wonder that our cities are bankrupt, right? That the tax system is slanted overwhelmingly towards the rich people, or the prisons are overcrowded, or the police are fucking brutal, or the fucking education system can't even, like, teach a kid how to read, let alone keep his ass in fucking, like, you know, keep him in school till he fucking graduates. Like, you know, it's no wonder none of that shit is, like, nothing's working when the people who are running things are working for themselves, alright? You know, look who's in charge, alright? And when you elected these fucking sleazy, greedy-ass morons, like, what the fuck did you think was gonna happen, okay? Last, you know, this 2010, when all these fucking teabagger people got elected, what did you think they were gonna do? You know, actually lead? Actually work for you? Actually do some shit for the country? Yeah, right, okay. Now, you know, people think that if they go out and they vote, and if the guy you vote for gets elected, then somehow everything is just gonna, like, mystically take care of itself. And that's not how it works, okay? That's not true. It's not the act of voting that fixes things, okay? It's who you vote for, alright? And next time, vote for someone with some intelligence, okay? Vote for someone with integrity who isn't going to fuck you over to benefit corporations or quit halfway through their term, alright? You have to vote for someone who's interested in serving the country, okay? Ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country. That's the kind of fucking person you need to vote for, okay? Someone who is not going to use their position to just enrich themselves at your expense, alright? And I think a pretty good, like, you know, place to look for that is someone, you know, basing it on the past experience of this last, you know, 6 months to a year. I think a good place to look for that is someone who doesn't have an R in front of their name. Alright, am I wrong for saying this? I don't fucking think so. Alright, adios, people.